So we're just going to wait for a couple minutes just to let our attendees get in, but we'll be starting very shortly. Val, thanks for sharing our sponsors. So my name is Gwen McIntyre. I'm the Communications Manager at the Joint Economic Development Initiative, or JEDI for short. And we're going to start this webinar the way that we start all of our big events, with an opening prayer. So Val, if you don't mind sharing our prayer video with our traditionalist, Evan Sakobi. Val, we can't hear Evan. You probably have to unmute yourself. There we go. Sounds good.
Your loved ones at home. I'd like to express my gratitude and to the Creator for this beautiful day and for these beautiful medicines. So if you guys don't mind partaking in a little bit of smudge with me to get our day going, to get this event going. First and foremost, we offer up our thanks and we smudge our hands. And the reason we smudge our hands is so that we can reach out to people in time of need in a constructive way. We smudge our hands and ask them to be helping hands, to be able to help people in their time of need. We smudge our eyes so that we are always able to see the goodness in each and every one of us. We're able to see past the struggles and look towards solutions. We smudge our ears so we're always able to listen and to be able to receive the teachings that are put before us today, tomorrow, and the days to continue. We smudge our hearts. We ask Jigel Wazit to heal any pain that we have in there so that we're able to move forward in a good, positive way to be the best versions of ourselves. We smudge around us and ask the ancestors who have all gathered with us to walk with us on a daily basis and to surround us by good light, surround us by good love, and to always be that happiness. We smudge our feet so that we're able to walk in a humble way and to always remain firm and strong like the trees and the standing ones. We give thanks and we smudge our head and our brain so that we are, again, being receptive to that guiding light and that guiding energy. This is my way of smudging. I'm sure everybody else has different ways, but this is a smudge that I offer to each and every one of you today. Believing nagawalozo welcome to much. Mandu nagajagawa sit John like a chini quest. Your bem kiskak. So believing walozo welcome to much chill. Ski jino kat pizuno. So we joke man naga we joke totine. No delay was tweet good maruas nagamagalap John Evan Sakobi. So new jails and unsis nagawalus the guy we had nil. And believe Hudman was the guy we had nil. Believe Hudman Sakobi nil. The most suka naganuk masuk. So we leave when nagawalazo welcome to much. Chill walustig way right away wagon and naga book cool loggin Joe na lintuagano. Na musum suk na ganuk masuk uliwan Joe na mitak sa nagnegos. Joe na ni Johnuk. Uliwan na gulo sa welcome gumaj. Joe pseude bamausawagan naga pseude get naga pseude wen. My prayers are always of thanks. I offer up thanks for all that I have, for all that's important. And when we can truly start to give thanks and acknowledge all the good stuff that we have in our life, it makes going out and being of service and helping others just that little extra part of it. So my prayers for each and every one of you are to thank you guys first and foremost for your time and your commitment in whatever it is that you guys have devoted your life professionally, personally, and relationshiply. That's my prayers of thanks to each and every one of you. So thank you for your time. I'd like to offer up thanks again to JEDI for allowing me to do this, and give thanks for all of our ancestors who are here. That's the important part. That's the connection part that we speak of when we do ceremony. We give thanks for the ancestors who we can't see. We give thanks for their energy. We give thanks for their light. We give thanks for the memories that they left behind us. And we all have those ancestors. You know, we all have them people who are no longer with us in our lives today. They were at once a part of it. And when we acknowledge them and when we ask thanks and we give thanks for them, we don't do that in sadness. We do that in celebration. Anytime that we burn our medicines, our ancestors instantly smile. Anytime we speak our beautiful Olastagwe, Ladaway Wagan, our beautiful Mausi language, our ancestors instantly smile. Now picture one of your ancestors who is no longer with us right now, and picture them the minute you shake around. Picture them smiling. Think of their smile. If you listen hard enough, hear their laughter. That's what these ceremonies allow us to do. They allow us to connect on our own personal level. And I hope by sharing this prayer and this ceremony with you guys this morning, and what you can take away from it is that you guys will leave here with your own appreciation of their own ceremony that you need to do to get back in touch with your ancestors. I'll finish off this prayer by singing a song. And our songs are prayers. Our songs are not only things to listen to. Our songs are given purpose and they have direction. And the spirit world, which is always around us, they take notice when they hear these objects. They take notice when we speak of their name. They take notice when we think of them. You know, this life that we wake up to and have the honor and privilege and blessing to wake up to is a gift. And we have to be able to enjoy it to the best of our ability. And it starts every morning by giving thanks. And that's the most beautiful part about ceremony. This song that I want to sing for you again is a welcome song. It's one of our oldest songs. And in our language, it's Guano Day, Guano Day. Guano is the welcome. And Aliyah Guano Day is we're all going to welcome. So we sing that song to our ancestors and we ask them to all come and join us. So think of your ancestors. Think of them. Give thanks for them. And in the same time as we did our smudge, we give thanks for all that we had to live for, all the people in our lives. So I'm going to sing this song, and we're going to call our ancestors in with us today. Leave it up to Chilomio.
That was a great prayer from our traditionalist, Evan Sokobi. He's from the Woolastook territory. He's located here in St. Mary's, right next to where JEDI is located, or in the office next to, pretty much. Anyways, I want to thank Evan for that beautiful prayer again. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Woolastook and Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Woolastook and Mi'kmaq people first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Woolastook title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. And the reason why I acknowledge both the Woolastook and the Mi'kmaq today is because JEDI represents the Mi'kmaq and the Woolastook and actually the Passamaquoddy people of New Brunswick. And all of our speakers, I think, are mostly in Woolastook territory, but I know that a lot of our listeners are in Mi'kmaq territory today. And if you're in a different territory, we welcome you as well. And, you know, it's important to acknowledge the land that you're in. Again, my name is Gwen McIntyre. I'm the communications manager at JEDI, and I'm joined by my coworkers, Connor Bear and Val Polchis in the background. You can probably see Val on the screen now, or maybe, I'm not sure, but Val was on the screen earlier. Just a couple things, housekeeping tips before we get started. You'll see a little chat button down at the bottom. That's a great spot to, you know, just make some comments or whatever. But if you have any questions that you would like answered, please put them in the Q&A section. The Q&A just keeps them a little bit separate from all the other ones, and that helps us get going. We are recording the video. We're also doing Facebook Live today. So you'll be able to access this video in more than one spot a little later on. I still haven't had a chance to send out last week's recording of the webinar yet. I believe Val shared it on Facebook last week, but I'm going to send it out in an email to all attendees as well. Right now, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Farm Credit Canada, FCC, the Government of New Brunswick, the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries, CCMB, the College Communautaire de Nouveau-Brunswick, Atlantic Canada Fish Farmers, Artful Sciences, Alnawig, and Crown Plaza Fredericton. We're really happy that you guys could come on and support these important webinars that we do. We provide a lot of great information. And yeah, so Val already shared all of the videos of the sponsors there at the beginning. So I'm just going to introduce Stan Barnaby right now. Stan Barnaby is the Senior Projects Manager at JEDI. Normally our president, Alex Dedham, provides a welcome message from the organization, but he is tied up today. So Stan has graciously agreed to step in on his behalf. So Stan is just going to say a few words right now. Go ahead, Stan.
Thank you, Gwen. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Joint Economic Development Initiative, I'd like to welcome you to the Agri-Food and Agriculture Growing Together webinar series. Today is our third of 5 webinars relating to agri-food and agriculture for Indigenous peoples in New Brunswick. Last week, we heard from Claire May, the Hayes Farm Coordinator, and she shared some of the great programs they are having at their farm right here in Fredericton. If you are interested in their How to Start a Community Farm Handbook, you should check out the Hayes Farm website. We also heard from Jake Augustine, General Manager of McGraw Seafood, and Terry Sullivan, Senior Advisor on Aboriginal Relations with the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries. They spoke about McGraw Seafood and how much success the organization has had since 2008 when Elsie Buktuk bought the business. McGraw has grown in the last 12 years, and much of that is because of partnerships and collaborations with government and other organizations. If you would like to hear last week's webinar, the link will be shared in the chat. Today, we will hear from the government of New Brunswick as they describe how they can help support your business in agri-food and agriculture in New Brunswick. Some of the many programs include New Brunswick Indigenous Aquaculture Program, the New Brunswick Food and Beverage Strategy, and the Business Navigator through Opportunities New Brunswick. We'd like to thank Terry, Ryan, Jill, and Melissa who are joining us today. I look forward to hearing their presentations. We all know that our participants will enjoy learning about the services and programs that you provide. Our funders and our sponsors enable JEDI to host our events. We offer a sincere thank you to our sponsors, Farm Credit Canada, the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries, the College Communautaire du Nouveau-Brunswick, the Atlantic Canada Fish Farmers Association, Artful Sciences, Olneweg, and the Crown Plaza Fredericton, as well as our funders, the Government of Canada and the Government of New Brunswick. Finally, JEDI would like to thank you all for joining us today. Will Mercy, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Stan. So we're going to jump right in because we've got a full schedule of topics here today. And I know Terry Sullivan joined us last week, and he's going to be joining us again this week. He's just going to give us a brief overview of the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries. Terry Sullivan is from Riverview and went to the University of New Brunswick to study forestry. He moved to British Columbia after his studies and worked in the forest private sector for 6 years before accepting a position with the government of British Columbia in 2004 in Haida Gwaii. It was on Haida Gwaii where Terry started working closely with First Nations to find solutions to complex resource management issues, and he has done so ever since. Terry moved back to New Brunswick 3 years ago and is now the Senior Advisor to the Assistant Deputy Minister at the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries, where his focus is Aboriginal relations. Over to you, Terry.
Thank you, Gwen. Sharing my screen now. Hit the share button.
Yeah, we can see it, Terry.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Gwen, and thanks everybody for attending. We're pretty excited, myself and my colleagues, to be sharing information about our department and how we can help support Indigenous participation in the agriculture, aquaculture, and fisheries sectors. My contact information is on this first slide, and I'll be sharing my slide presentation with Gwen and all of the participants. If you ever have any questions in the future, just feel free to call me. And thank you again. As most of you know, we had been working with JEDI since last year to collaborate with JEDI and partners for a plenary face-to-face in March. But I want to thank Gwen and your team for your innovation for having a webinar series in these complicated times. So here's just a brief outline of what I want to speak to you about today. So why am I here? A bit about our organizational structure within DAAF, some of our business highlights over the last year or two, and really towards the end of the presentation, I really want to focus on the projects and initiatives currently at play within our department as they relate to Indigenous groups or individuals or organizations. So as I mentioned, I'll provide a brief overview of the department, and I would like to communicate, hopefully it comes across, that there are some real opportunities for interested in individuals, businesses, or Indigenous organizations in the sectors within our department. I'd like to show some examples of those and just a little bit on what to look for in the future in the coming year. So a bit about our team and our organizational leadership. So as all government departments, we have a minister who's the Honorable Ross Wetmore. And under Ross Wetmore, Ms. Kathy LaRochelle is our deputy minister. We have 3 assistant deputy ministers and an executive director, Kevin McCulley, in the agriculture branch. I report directly to Ms. Kathy Brewer-Dalton, and she's the ADM for industry development and aquatic operations. And we all work closely with the other ADMs in policy and corporate services. And within New Brunswick, we have about 215 staff located around the province in various locations. So starting with our agriculture branch. So as with our other branches, our main purpose is to support economic development and growth in our sectors through strategic initiatives and programs. And for the agriculture branch, they focus on improving the competitiveness of the sector and the sustainability of crop and livestock sectors by providing technical advice. So we have a team of highly technical professionals across the province supporting the agriculture branch in research and monitoring. And there are 4 main teams under the agriculture group, and they are animal health, crop sector and live sector development, and potato sector development. In the fisheries and aquaculture branch, again, it's to promote the growth and competitiveness of the fisheries and aquaculture sectors. And what's unique to the aquaculture branch is they have a strong role in the regulatory environment for both aquaculture and seafood processing. And as we speak, we are developing new regulations for the aquaculture sector under the new Aquaculture Act. And again, we focus on maintaining sustainable practices that produce safe and high quality seafood products. And there are 4 teams underneath the Fisheries and Aquaculture branch. So commercial fisheries, which is mostly processing, and there are indigenous processing facilities and commercial fisheries in the province, aquaculture development, and also science and fish health. And we also support the aquarium and marine, there are 3 marine centers across the province as well. We also have a marketing and trade branch, and they provide strategic delivery and coordination of marketing and trade initiatives. And I'm going to speak to one of these under the marketing trade branch, a specific example of working directly with Indigenous organizations to help support export and marketing of Indigenous products. The marketing trade team is also leading the development of the local food and beverage strategy, which Jill is going to talk about in a moment. And Ryan Bourgeois, who's going to give a talk on the Indigenous Agriculture Development Program, leads the industry financial program team. So his team supports financial assistance to all of our sectors in agriculture, aquaculture, and fisheries, and in that way supports all of our teams. And the 3 main programs under the industry financial programs, is the CAP program, or the Canadian Agriculture Partnership, the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, and the Loans and Guarantees program. So that was a lot to digest, but underneath that, we have a team of business growth experts. And these are the sort of direct point of contact for anybody who's interested in developing or a project in our sectors. So these business growth team experts, they provide delivery and coordination of all of our clients, including First Nations. And really what the business driver for the business growth team is to expand and grow existing businesses through modernization or diversification of the sectors, but also to liaise with new clients who are interested in joining either the agriculture, aquaculture, or fisheries sectors. Just a quick snapshot of some of the highlights. So last year, or actually about 1.5 years ago, our department supported 28 projects, under the Atlantic Fisheries Fund, which last week McGraw Seafood spoke to several of their projects, and they accessed funding through the Atlantic Fisheries Fund as well as other funding programs. Some of the other business highlights include increased production in the oyster production, and that's sort of embedded under the shellfish aquaculture development strategy. And as some of you may know, Indian Island First Nation, as well as other First Nations in the Mi'kmaq communities, are participants in the oyster production sector. The other business highlights, so the marketing and seafood exports, so sales reaching $1.7 billion in these sectors, which is the 2nd highest in Canada. So there's, as you know, lots of activity in the aquaculture and seafood sectors in the province. There's also, the team also supports multiple trade events across the country and internationally. And as a result of some of those, our lobster exports in New Brunswick increased by $50 million over the last 1.5 years. And salmon, farm-raised Atlantic salmon exports also rose by $24 million or 6%. Okay, so now for the Indigenous pieces, which is really the important part. And I know, Gwen, we only have 4 minutes. So in October 2018, our department hired a senior advisor reporting directly to the ADM to focus specifically on Indigenous projects, whether they be business-to-business partnerships or new economic development opportunities for Aboriginal communities in New Brunswick. And initially that was focused on aquaculture and fisheries, and has since expanded to include all of our sectors within DAAF, including agriculture. Since then, our department has created a new program called the New Brunswick Indigenous Agriculture Development Program, which is specific for Indigenous applicants. And Ryan's going to speak to that in a few moments. We're also, some of our other initiatives include engaging with Indigenous organizations to improve the level of awareness about Aboriginal and treaty rights, and also through those to increase the collaboration with other departments, whether they be provincial or federal, who have a shared interest in promoting new opportunities for Indigenous participants in these sectors. Now, the next couple of slides speak to some specifics about projects that we're working on. So the local food and beverage strategy, which I mentioned, over the last year, we worked on a provincial New Brunswick industrial hemp roadmap, which had participation from several Indigenous communities across the province. We're working on an operational training initiative with the North Shore Mi'kmaq Development Council, District Council, excuse me, which provides training for Indigenous communities who are interested in participating in shellfish aquaculture. Boston Seafood 2.0, and I'll speak to that in a moment. We're working with Tobic on some of their fisheries related projects. We're working with Indian Island on their oyster holding facility. As last week, Jake Augustine presented the Seafood McGraw expansion projects. And we're also supporting the inclusion of a reference to Aboriginal and treaty rights within some of our legislation. An example of that is the Aquaculture Act. We're also working with our finfish aquaculture clients to facilitate engagement with First Nations regarding their aquaculture projects, mostly on the finfish side. There are also a project with Indigenous participation in our Shellfish Health and Technical Committee. And again, we're working with JEDI under their Business Steering Committee to support the incubator and accelerator programs. And as I mentioned earlier, we've co-developed a strategy, or JEDI plenary, excuse me, on our sectors. I want to speak for a moment about branding. So over the last, since I guess November, we've been exploring the notion of an Indigenous brand specifically for seafood products in New Brunswick. And we've been engaging with tribal councils in the province to sort of explore that notion. And our department is directly supporting development of a striped bass branding project with the North Shore Mi'kmaq District Council. And our thoughts on this is to demonstrate success in this project. So in the future, we could help leverage potential future Indigenous branding opportunities for seafood products or agriculture products. I wanted to talk specifically about Boston Seafood for just a moment. We're in our second year of planning, and our vision here, and some of you may not know, the Boston Seafood Show is a large international seafood expo. And it's where the New Brunswick government has a pavilion with many of its clients in the seafood and aquaculture sectors to market their products, excuse me, that's 10 minutes, to market their products. So our vision for our department is to work with Indigenous communities to establish an Indigenous marketing booth within the New Brunswick Pavilion at the Boston Seafood Expo to showcase Indigenous fishing, processing, and seafood products, and to help facilitate business connections with our Indigenous clients in New Brunswick with international clients. And ultimately to demonstrate that we're working together and to develop new products and new markets. So looking forward, so we're going to continue to advance Indigenous opportunities in DAAF sectors, whether that be in the aquaculture primary sector itself, fisheries processing, or the local food programs and through the agriculture team. We're going to continue engaging with Indigenous communities related to DAAF strategy to help support a more food self-sufficient province. Now this is something new that's coming out this year amid the pandemic. And we're starting our engagement with all chiefs in the communities and to start collaborating on food self-sufficiency in New Brunswick. And again, on the consultation and engagement side, we're going to continue to consult. We're going to continue to engage with our Indigenous organizations as they relate to projects in our sectors. So that's it. Sorry, Gwen, I think I was 2 minutes over. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks, Terry, for that great presentation. I think that we've got some good thoughts churning now, and it's nice that we'll be able to dig a little deeper into some of the topics that you just mentioned. So I'm going to introduce Ryan right now. Ryan Bourgeois is the Director of Industry Financial Programs for the New Brunswick Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries. The mandate of Industry Financial Programs is to deliver financial assistance programs to support development of the agriculture, aquaculture, and fisheries sectors in New Brunswick. So Ryan, I'll leave it to you to take it away to share some more information about this.
Great, thanks, Gwen. Certainly appreciate the invitation today. I'm going to share my screen here and get the presentation up. Should probably start at the first would be good. So once again, good afternoon, everyone. So today I want to talk about a specific program that we recently launched. It's called the Indigenous Agriculture Development Program. And it's under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which Terry referenced before, and this is a federal provincial cost shared program to support the agriculture sector. So just a little bit of background on the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, and I'll call that CAP for short. It started on April 1st, 2018, and it goes for 5 years. So we're a little, just about halfway through the agreement. It has two different parts. It has strategic initiatives, which are basically grant-based programs. So there's ones that are delivered by the federal government only, and those are usually national initiatives. And then we have provincial only programs that each province designs to their specific needs. So in New Brunswick's case, it's $37 million over 5 years, so $7.4 million a year for various programs. And one component under that is the Indigenous Agriculture Development Program, which I'll get into detail here in a minute. Also under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, we have some national business risk management programs. And for anyone that's involved in agriculture currently, you've likely heard of these. So these are Agri-insurance, Agri-stability, and Agri-invest. So these are all programs that help either support your production or market risks and savings accounts and things like that. As far as the Indigenous Agriculture Development Program, this is something fairly new. We just worked on it over the last few months. And these are funds available under CAP to support First Nations communities or individuals, organizations who are participating in the New Brunswick agriculture industry. So it's pretty wide open there, and we left that open for a reason, because, you know, just to make sure that anyone that has a project for agriculture, you know, has a good chance of being eligible. So I listed all the some of the eligibility groups on there, so you can see it's pretty broad. One thing I like to mention is all applications are reviewed based on their eligibility and merit. So we'll look at each individual application on its own and determine if it meets the eligibility criteria, and you know, things like that. So basically, the way we have it set up is applicants are invited to apply for project funding under any program of the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. So basically, what we've basically done is we've taken the Canadian CAP, the programs under the partnership in New Brunswick, and basically just opened it up a little bit for the Indigenous community, mainly because we see that there's a little less interest in that, and so it's something that we want to promote. So the major change under the program is higher levels of funding may be considered for Indigenous projects. So in some cases, we may have programs that offer 50% funding. So, you know, we'll go as high as 100% for projects that meet the criteria. So that's where I mentioned down about the minimum cost share amounts may be waived. So we're going to look at it on a case-by-case basis, and certainly going up to 100%, anything that reaches a lot of people is going to have a higher chance of getting the minimum cost share amounts waived. So we do, so basically under the partnership that we have right now under our programs, anything that's client specific is usually 30 to 50% cost shared, and then anything that hits is an industry or association type initiative is, you know, gets 75% funding, usually somewhere in that range. One of the pieces that we see as a foundational program is our business development program. So this program basically takes an idea and puts it on paper. It helps cost share the cost of developing a business plan, and helps navigate through the complexities of farm finances and production costs. So this program could be used to go out and hire a consultant to take an idea and operationalize it. We can also use this program for skill development. So to learn technical skills, so to put on some training or some leadership skills for overall business management or for running your farm. So again, these are really the foundational pieces. So we see in the early stages, this is where most of the demand will be. So that's why we've highlighted it here. As far as the other programs, there's I won't go through these in much detail, but I just wanted to give you a sense that there are a number of different programs under the Canadian Agriculture Partnership. I highlighted business development just because we see that as a foundational piece, but certainly the program is applicable to all our other programs under the partnership as well. So I'll leave it there for now. I know that's a lot of information all at once, but certainly available for questions at the end. I believe the plan is to have questions after all the speakers have spoken. So I'll leave it there and I'll stay on and looking forward to the questions.
Thanks, Ryan. I am going to ask one question before we move on to our next speaker. So Ryan, if someone was interested in finding some of these applications on CAP, is there a URL maybe that you could share in the chat for everyone so that they could know where to find applications or where to start the process anyway?
Yeah, sure. I'll share that in the chat as well. And I meant to mention too that as Terry mentioned with our business growth officers, those are the key people that help clients navigate through the program. So certainly you can either go on the website, look at information there, or directly contact a business growth officer, and they'll help you, guide you through the process.
Great, thanks. So one of the questions that we've received in the Q&A already is, we'll receive a copy of the PowerPoint by email shortly. Yes, I will try and get that out to everyone this week. Once I receive the copies from all of our presenters, I'll make sure that I send them out to all the attendees. The list of programs will be available in that PowerPoint, so it's there. The rest of the questions I'm going to talk about at the end, because right now we're going to hear from Jill. Jill has a Bachelor of Business Administration with a marketing concentration from UNB and completed her graduate studies in Community and Economic Development from Concordia University. So Brunswick's Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries, managing the Buy New Brunswick initiative and leading the renewal of New Brunswick's local food and beverages strategy. She is also a proud member of both Food for All New Brunswick and Farm to Cafeteria Canada's steering committees, and assists in efforts to provide healthy and local food options for all New Brunswickers. So Jill, we're excited to hear about the food and beverage strategy.
Thank you, Gwen, and good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. And again, thank you to JEDI for having us in to speak with you all today. I'm just gonna share my screen here, one sec. Okay. Oh. Okay, wait a second here. Apologies all. My computer is frozen.
We can see your screen, Jill.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Can you see
it's not showing a full screen. It's just showing like when you would be working on it, that kind of thing.
Okay. Let's see if this works. There we go. Is that better?
There we go. We're all set.
Okay, perfect. All right. As Gwen mentioned, and Terry as well, I'm here to talk with you all about the local food and beverage strategy renewal. So we'll start off with a brief recap of the local food and beverage strategy, the past strategy, which was a 2-year strategy from 2016 to 2018. And it had 3 overarching objectives, which were improving consumer awareness of local food and beverages, improving availability of local food and beverages, and providing improved support for new and expanding food and beverage enterprises. So that last strategy was very successful in that we accomplished 11 of the 13 action items in that strategy. Some of the big Successful actions included a pilot project with wine and grocery stores. And as you all know, there is wine and beer in most grocery stores now. So that's kind of what led to that initiative. And also a culinary tourism strategy, which had New Brunswick's Department of Tourism focusing more on food and beverage and agritourism initiatives within their department. So that's also another great one. And of course, the questions of which initiatives were less than successful. And one was actually around that Buy Acheter NB logo that you'll see below. We had developed that initiative under that last strategy in the hopes that companies would place that logo on their packaging to represent New Brunswick and increase the awareness of local food and beverage products here in the province. But with many of those larger companies selling into grocery stores like Sobeys and Loblaws, those grocery stores will often sell their products in neighboring provinces, and to tell them to buy Acheter NB was not something that they wanted to do in Nova Scotia or Ontario or whatnot. So that was one of those less than successful initiatives. So other things that we heard from that last strategy was that there were a lot of ideas that our industry stakeholders and Indigenous partners had, but that they didn't feel like they had an opportunity to incorporate those ideas into that last strategy. And we also learned that, sharing some of those ideas and with stronger collaboration, there was a great opportunity to strengthen and grow New Brunswick's local food and beverages through that local food and beverage strategy for a stronger New Brunswick. We also heard that there was a lot of silo organizations, both inside of government and outside. So a lot of great things happening in the province, but people weren't collaborating, and we really wanted to make a strategy that was going to work on that collaboration and building better partnerships for everyone. So we took a very different approach for this new strategy. In 2019, we actually developed 3 working groups. One was around industry development. So that's the economic drivers in the local food and beverage sectors. And the other is community food security. So that's looking at those community food organizations that are working on food security in the province. There was already a lot of really great partnerships happening, and we wanted a way to shine a light on that, like a farmer providing food to a food bank, for instance, as an example of that. We also wanted to have a stronger focus on First Nations in this strategy. And wanted to make sure that we were being very inclusive in our strategy development. And we have some great partners around the table in that First Nations working group, including JEDI, some members of the Tribal Council and other communities, as well as Agri-food and Ag Canada, and some different government departments as well within the province. So we decided to initiate this strategy, those 3 working groups did, by building a strategy from the bottom up. So we decided to move forward with having engagement sessions with industry stakeholders and Indigenous participants before we developed any objectives or any action items for this strategy. We wanted those objectives and action items to be built on the feedback from our industry. We wanted their ideas first and building that strategy based on those ideas. So there were a number of engagement sessions that were held, and we collected a lot of research with relevant ideas and evidence on why we should be moving in this direction. And once we had all of that feedback, we analyzed the results. All 3 of those working groups did, and we are now shaping the new strategy. Now, we had initially planned on a spring launch for this strategy, but like many initiatives, we had to press the pause button because of the unfortunate COVID-19. And we wanted to take a bit of time to look at some of the impacts that happened on our food and beverage industry before we move forward with the strategy and finalizing it. So that's what we've done this summer, is looking at some of those impacts and looking at some of those initiatives to see if we could strengthen the strategy even further. And we are now planning on a fall launch. So the technique that we decided to go with the engagement sessions was actually a really unique way called open space technology. And that's about getting those ideas from participants in a very open and inclusive way. And we had a goal of building that collaboratively, like I mentioned, and really wanted to support greater Indigenous participation in New Brunswick's food and beverage sectors. Again, with the goal of strengthening New Brunswick's local food and beverage system. So some of the ideas to share with you that came out of that Indigenous engagement session was greater access to culturally appropriate food and Indigenous foodways. And also there was a lot of interest around Indigenous ancestral recipes, and really a lot of great ideas around that. As well, there was some feedback around the need to unite government support. So the provincial government working with the federal government and so on to ease that access and entry of Indigenous participants into the food and beverage sector. And also working collaboratively to build training and mentoring and skills development opportunities for Indigenous participants. And also there was a need to strengthen support for healthy food and community food initiatives in Indigenous communities, with a lot of interest and focus on youth and youth education and increased involvement. Also, there was a lot of interest in enhancing opportunities for Indigenous and industry stakeholders to collaborate in the pursuit of business to business opportunities. In some of the other engagement sessions that happened around the province as well, just to share, there was a lot of common ideas with the Indigenous ideas. So I thought I would share a few as well. So that was looking at measuring the amount of local food and beverage used and consumed in the province. There was a lot of feedback around food safety regulations, and kind of that there was some different, the use of those food and safety regulations around the province were not consistently enforced. And so to look at that piece. And then again, some challenges with the funding and support models, and just the ease of knowing where to go to find the funding that is needed to support the growth of those companies. And also about increasing the public awareness and trust for local food and beverages. And also that there was a missing knowledge cluster, in that we should be leveraging our universities and colleges a little bit more. I heard that one of the speakers was Hayes Local Farm. So getting kind of those minds around the table and making sure we're moving in the right direction, which we're hoping to do with this strategy. And also a strengthened workforce. And then there's gaps kind of in the knowledge around how to price products. And there's some gaps in the distribution system and transportation, but also a lot of opportunities there. So some of those opportunities and ideas, great ideas that were brought forward too, is building a directory of what is grown, made, and sold in New Brunswick, strengthening opportunities. So that would be around public procurement. So getting more local food into government initiatives and buildings and events. and also increased tourism opportunities, so agritourism, and building a more inclusive network. So that would be for all of the partners and stakeholders and Indigenous participants working together more collaboratively in the province to strengthen the food system. And strengthen marketing, so building that pride, awareness, and definition for local food. And that community shared program. So again, that collaboration has been a common theme that we found throughout all of the feedback that we received and the ideas from the engagement sessions. And food literacy, so helping the New Brunswick's youth and Indigenous youth with food skills and education. So those are a strong capture of a lot of the common themes that were brought up through the local food and beverage engagement sessions. And we are looking forward to bringing that strategy forward in the fall. And we will definitely be sharing a lot of those engagement session ideas through the books of proceedings. So you'll be able to have a look at some of those ideas that were brought forward in the engagement sessions as well when the strategy is launched. And again, thank you so much. I hope I stayed on time, Gwen. And I look forward to answering any questions that come up following the next presentation.
Thanks for your presentation, Jill. You guys sound like you're doing lots of great engagement with communities, organizations, individuals, and it sounds like you're learning a lot in the process, which is really great.
We sure are, yeah.
Good. I wanted to mention to Ryan, I'd asked him to share the link in the chat. Whenever you're chatting anyone, there's an option to chat towards all panelists or all panelists and attendees. So Ryan, if you wouldn't mind sending your link again to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see, that would be really great. At this time, I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and it is I should have asked Melissa how to pronounce your last name, but I'm going to go with this. Melissa Gottschall is originally from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, and moved to Fredericton for school 5 years ago. She holds an undergraduate degree in finance from St. FX and an MBA from UNB. She has been with ONB for 3 years, holds positions as a business development associate, business development executive, and is currently in the role of manager of business navigation at ONB. Melissa, I hope that I pronounced your last name correctly. And if I didn't, please feel free to let me know how it's pronounced.
No, you did a pretty good job. It's Gottschall. So that's pretty close. Yeah, pretty close. I'm going to share my screen and just give me a thumbs up when you can see it there.
Yeah, we can see it.
Also should start from the first slide. All right. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you to you, Gwen, and to everyone at JEDI for this opportunity to speak about the Business Navigator program at ONB. And good job to DAAF. I think I just learned a lot. You guys have a lot of really exciting stuff going on, so that's awesome. So I'll dive right into it. Check my time here. So I'll start with just a quick overview of what the service is. I'll go into a bit of background about kind of why we launched this service, what led up to it, dive in a bit more about the specifics of what we do, give you just a couple examples, and then some contact information for if there's any further questions or if you'd like to use our service. So quick overview. So Business Navigator provides one-on-one support to help businesses towards growth and success. So the way that we do this is we help them navigate through the various regulatory challenges that are associated with owning, operating, starting a business. And I'll dive in a bit more how we do that, but I just want to give you a quick overview before diving into the background. So I'd say it's a new frontline government service. I probably can't say that for very much longer. We're going on to our 1-year anniversary in October. We launched this in October of 2019. We are set up to take inquiries from clients via, we've got a 1-800 phone number and a shared email. And kind of the philosophy around what we're doing is to be responsive, friendly, and helpful. And again, I'll dive a bit more into what it is that we do in just a little bit. So I am going to give you just some background about why we're here, why we're launching this. So CFIB, so the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, every year they release what's called a red tape report card. And they score every province based on how they're doing with regards to red tape and kind of how easy it is for businesses to start up within the province. So if you look at New Brunswick from 2015 till about 2018, 2019, New Brunswick didn't have a very good score. And looking at all the other provinces, they're doing fairly well with the exception of a few. So that was kind of a red flag to say, hey, what can we do better to make it easier to do business in New Brunswick? And as you can see, in 2020, we increased our score already with the help of introducing the Business Navigator, as well as some other stuff going on with government. And if you take a look at Nova Scotia, who also launched a Business Navigator service, they've increased their score year over year. So it seems to be a recipe for success so far. And that's one of the red flags that said, hey, we can do something better here. So I just threw a quick slide in here to define red tape. It's a common term and sometimes not fully understood, but just a very quick description. So red tape is, and there's all kinds of definitions out there. This is just one I grabbed. Official routine or procedure marked by excessive complexity, which results in delays or inaction. So I threw two examples in here. The first example is a pretty high level, not business related, just kind of to get your mind into the frame of what red tape is. So I don't know if it's changed since COVID, but if you've ever had to go renew your driver's license at Service New Brunswick, you've got to wait in a line to get a number, to wait in another line, to fill out a form. And sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes an hour or two. And just that time that you're spending to go through the processes that you need to do to be able to legally drive, it takes some time, but obviously you have to do it for legal purposes, right? So to kind of put it into a business perspective, I just grabbed an example from CFIB's report. So in PEI, for a restaurant to set up, you cannot walk into a restaurant and just order a beer without buying a meal if you have a dining room license. So on top of the dining room license, you have to get a lounge license. So that's 2 licenses for someone to be able to walk into your restaurant to grab a drink. $900 of fees, and as you can see in the little write-up there, there's 18 separate pieces of information that you need. So as you can imagine, this is just one example of a lot of different red tape regulations that are out there. Obviously, some of the regulations are required for health and safety reasons. And then some of them are a bit excessive and can be done in a better way. So that was kind of another example of why we're here. Again, I don't want to go on too much on the background, but New Brunswick is one of 2 provinces, PEI is the other one, where our cost of regulation to businesses increased from 2014 to 2017. So again, another red flag. We had to do something about it. That's just a quick quote from CFIB as well, saying, I want to follow all the rules, but I've had a hard time, figuring out and working with the provincial government. And the perception was that we didn't want to help. We weren't, helpful and friendly, and just kind of people got passed around from, phone number to phone number, and a lot of regulations that they have to follow, but they don't know how. So insert Business Navigator. Like I said, there's a lot of other programs going on, but Business Navigator was created to help businesses navigate through what's currently out there. So we help people understand what the rules are that they need to follow, and do a bit of hand holding and some research, and call different government departments on their behalf. So some of the core inquiries that we deal with is business registration, inspection requirements, permits, licenses. Stuff like that. The non-core inquiries that are listed there, we don't deal with them specifically. We will help kind of do some resource finding. So, you know, if someone calls and says, you know, what financing options are out there, we'll do a bit of digging and see what we can find, but it's really not in our core list of inquiries. So out of scope for us, this is just, you know, like I said, we help navigate the regulations that are out there right now. We don't change the regulation. We don't, you know, help overturn a compliance decision, stuff like that. If there is something that is excessive, then we pass that along to our chief regulatory officer, who will then kind of dive into it and say, hey, can we do this in a more efficient or in a better way? Because it seems to be a common issue with people trying to set up a business in a certain sector. So the way that we do it, our business navigator team, they're not subject matter experts. They don't have the expertise in every single department. But what we do have is we have departmental navigators in all government departments. And we work with our departmental navigators. So as we get calls that are related to certain regulations in or certain programs in different government departments, we'll reach out to our departmental navigator to help us along. If it is a bit more complex of an issue, then we'll kind of make that introduction and say, hey, here's, you know, someone from DAAF who, you know, we think you should talk to, or they've got more information than we do, so here's someone you can talk to. So we kind of do that connector program and help them navigate through who it is they should be talking to, or, you know, what regulation they need to be following. We also work with partner organizations quite a bit, and that's we've got a really big network of partner organizations. Similar to DAAF, we have a business growth team, and I think our team works pretty closely with DAAF's business growth team as well. So they deal more so with the businesses that are already developed and expanding and growing, and trying to find out what else is out there to help them kind of expand and grow. So we can also make that connection to our business growth team, and DAAF will likely be pulled in on those ones as well. How am I doing? Okay, so the process, so the inquiry comes in, our navigator will have kind of a baseline conversation with the client to say, hey, what is it you're trying to do? What can we help you with? And then we'll go back, we'll do some of that research, we'll make those phone calls, we'll figure out what it is that the client is trying to do and help them out, provide that information to the client, and then we do some follow-up to kind of keep that relationship going a little bit. But if they're doing well and their business is progressing, then we let them go for sure. Like I said, our philosophy is to be responsive, friendly, and helpful. So if you email us or call us today, you'll hear back from us either today or tomorrow. We're very responsive in that way. And we're friendly and helpful. You know, it sounds a little cliche, but it's a big part of trying to open up a business, is to have a friendly voice on the other side, and someone that you know is going to go that extra mile to help you figure out what it is that you're trying to do. Some example businesses we're not sector specific at all. We get inquiries from all kinds of different sectors, and there's some up there on the screen. You know, no matter what it is, we will try to, you know, find out what we can for you in terms of your specific sector, and work with our government departments and our partner organizations to get you the information you need. Some example inquiries too, you know, how do I register my business? You know, how do I get a restaurant inspection? All kinds of questions there. We do get some that are just straight up, you know, I have a business idea, I have no idea where to start, and you know, we'll kind of help get them started in that way. So we do get a range of questions from a range of different sectors. Here's just some nice things that people have said about us. You know, I think we've got a pretty good relationship with a lot of our clients, and people seem to be satisfied. So that's positive for us and positive for our clients as well. And finally, there's a phone number there and an email in order to reach us. You know, give us a call, give us an email if you have an idea, or if you want some more information on what we can help you with. And you can also check out ONB's website, onbcanada.ca, to see what we do and some of the other departments or teams that we have at ONB. Happy to answer any questions. Give us a call, give us an email. And again, thank you to Gwen and to JEDI for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Melissa. Wow, I didn't even know about the Business Navigator myself, so I think it's great that there's a helping hand for people who are just, starting the whole process of how do I start my business. That seems overwhelming all by itself. So if you could have someone there to help you get through the red tape and regulations, it certainly would make a difference for sure. Melissa, do you mind stopping sharing your screen there?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of the questions that we've had so far have already been answered. Patricia Willette asked, does the business development program include food processing businesses or is primary agriculture only? And Ryan said the program is primary agriculture only. Thanks, Ryan, for sharing the link with all of the attendees for the programs that you were talking about earlier. There sounds like there's a lot of really great ones in there that we, not everyone is aware for sure. I do like the fact that you talked about that every case is evaluated individually. It's a case-by-case evaluation. And then even, and it's open to communities, individuals, and organizations. You're not just looking at First Nation communities or specifically organizations, but it's open to everyone, even individuals who've got things going on too. And so some of those cost share amounts can be waived too. So that was really interesting, I thought. And Jill, I thought what you did was really great too, talking about your collaborative approach with the food and beverage strategy, the fact that you engage with 3 different working groups to learn what was important to each one. I think that's really important, especially moving forward in this day and age. I've got people want to be heard. I know that Veronique had mentioned a question and, well, actually, I think it was a statement. I think Veronique Mo is with the CAP program. She says, the CAP sub-program advancing agri-food processing does have a food processor element, but there must be a direct link to primary agriculture in New Brunswick in order to be eligible. This sub-program is applicable to the agriculture sectors only. And then she added a link, which I will just, share that live with everyone. And this is found in the Q&A. It's going to pop up there in a second. Does anyone else have any questions that you'd want to talk about right now? I did create a quick poll and I'm going to launch it right now. And basically it says, before the webinar, did you know about, and you can choose whichever one you want or all of them. Did you know about the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries? Did you know about the New Brunswick Indigenous Agriculture Development Program or the New Brunswick Food and Beverage Strategy or the New Brunswick Business Navigator? So we talked about a lot of great topics today, and we're so happy that our speakers are going to be sharing their PowerPoints because there's tons of great information in there. So I'm just going to see. All right, I'm going to end our polling and pop it up there on the screen, see what we've got. Of course, most everybody's heard of the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries. That's good news. But we're looking at 50% for the Indigenous Agricultural Development Program, 50% for Food and Beverage Strategy, and then 60% for a Business Navigator. So I'm happy that we're able to do this presentation today. And did I share the results with you guys? There we go. There's the results now. I'm happy that we were able to do this today to get more information out there. I think this is important to get out there. We're a little over time, and that seems to be the way that we're running these webinars these days. So if there are no other questions, we're gonna wrap up a little bit here. So just to let you know that next week we will be hearing from our federal government partners. So this was all about what's happening in New Brunswick and the programs and services that are available here. Next week, we'll be hearing from the federal side of things. So we'll be talking about the Indigenous Pathfinder Service, the Indigenous food programs, opportunities for partnerships and joint ventures, and Indigenous Services Canada. So we've got a great lineup next week as well. So we're hoping that you'll all sign up for that one as well. I do want to thank our sponsors again, FCC, Farm Credit Canada, the Government of New Brunswick, the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture and Fisheries. feel like I'm saying that a lot today. College Communautaire du Nouveau Brunswick, CCNB, the Atlantic Canada Fish Farmers, Artful Sciences, Olnewig, Crown Plaza, Fredericton. Thanks so much for your sponsorship. We're happy that you could join us. And Stan, did you want to say a couple of final words before we close things out today?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to thank Terry, Ryan, Melissa, and Jill again for all their great presentations. It was a lot of good information, and I hope our attendees are able to start utilizing these resources that they have, and hopefully we see some new projects come through in the near future.
Thanks, Stan. Yeah, I echo Stan's sentiments on thanking all of our speakers today. Thanks for taking the time out to assist us with this webinar. You all did a great job, and your content was really interesting and useful. So stay tuned, everyone, for their PowerPoints coming in an email near you soon. And thanks for joining us today. We'll see you again next week, same time, same place.